Hello, welcome to WCC Wednesday. Today we are on scene, kind of doing something a little different. When people are in your neighborhood, you just show up and say, can I come on over? And so we are talking to Common Grace, an inclusive community, and we will find out a little bit about that. But first, can you two introduce yourselves?
For sure. You want to go first?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, I'm Stacy Marisi Wheeler, and I am one of the pastors here at Common Grace.
And I'm Pat Siegler, and I am the other pastor at Common Grace.
And you guys are pastors, but you have some background. You didn't just like ordain yourselves.
We do.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So I'm a Moravian pastor who has been serving on the east side of Madison and the west side of Madison for the past 12 years. And this is the property that I have been serving in, but now we are a collaborative congregation.
Right. And I am an ELCA pastor of Zion Faith Community, which is also on the east side. I've been there for 20 years. And about 6 years ago, we made a decision that the people were more important than our building, and so we're in the process of selling our building, and in the midst of all of that, Stacy and I felt the Spirit moving and have brought two congregations together into one.
So you have these two congregations that got together, and you said the Spirit was moving. Can you tell me a little bit about what that looked like? Like, how did it start, and where are you now? In a short bit. I think you probably tell us that over.
So I think it probably started in about 2014, 2016,
Sure.
14. So an ecumenical collaboration on the east side of 8 different churches, and their pastors started working together. And one of the questions that we were asking was, we did some asset mapping and started talking about how could we work together for greater community impact, and part of that working together looked like sharing resources, human resources, property resources. What would that look like? So Pat and I have been working together with that larger group, which is now has called itself Seeds of Peace for some time now, and we are a loosely based but very congenial and work well together, compatible. That's the other word I want. Group of mostly Protestant pastors. Yes, Protestant pastors, mostly Protestant churches. We do a little work with our Catholic neighbors up the street too.
And so I guess I would also include that where the Spirit started to move was maybe this last December, when our faith community made a vote to officially sell the building and officially try to come over here and do something with Lakeview. And then a month later, right, Lakeview had their annual meeting and they also voted the same, and that was about when things really started to kick. Because, there's always that scary time of one group is like all in, and is the other group going to be all in, and it all stuck together. And then it was kind of a weird time in the case of COVID, with going from January and seeing what we can do together, putting our boards together, and then finally having our first in-person worship together on July 11th.
Wow.
And that was spectacular. That was a great event.
It was wonderful. So we refer to ourselves as a collaborative ministry and not a merger, a church merger or a congregational merger, because we at this time at least are still separate entities, still maintaining our denominational connections with our own denominations, but we are one worshiping community with individual boards, but also a combined board. So we're doing it a little bit differently with the larger vision of actually creating a community center on this property, which will serve the east side. And that was really one of the biggest, clearest pieces of the call was to continue to be in ministry in these neighborhoods of the East Side that we've been in ministry in for some time, both congregations.
So it's been fun to, I will say, it's been fun to watch on Facebook. I live in the neighborhood, and so I've walked past this building a lot, and then all of a sudden one day I saw, I'm not sure who, but, or I think Stacy had posted on Facebook and said, "Who wants to buy some pews?" And then all of a sudden I saw photos of Zion's chairs coming in, and seeing all of this stuff evolve through these past few months has been really cool. So what are some of the challenges that you guys ran into, or your communities ran into?
I think that, well, one of the challenges that I know that we've both experienced is songs, and what kind of songs we're going to use during worship. Are we going to use hymnody? Are we going to use praise songs? Are we going to use newish songs, and what that is going to look like? And I think that's been something we have worked exceedingly hard on,
Yes.
and it's worked so far for these few weeks. It's worked really, really well. We were expecting a bunch of blowback, and at least there's been none to our faces.
But it has worked. I think it has worked well. So I think we're not doing anything typical for either congregation. So that a piece of that is really clear, I think, to folks that we're trying to honor what's been meaningful to both congregations in new ways, right? So we're creating something new, and that I think people are respectful of that effort that we're making to do that. And I think it's actually led to some really meaningful worship. At least that's my sense of things. I think the other piece is that another challenge was that the Moravian congregation did not have communion weekly, and the Lutheran congregation did have communion weekly. And so those kinds of things we've tried to be out in front of and had a conversation with our board, and we basically just said, here's the deal. There's no easy way. We did pretty much say that, didn't we?
Hey, sometimes it works. Put it all on the
Right.
table.
So there's no easy way to make this work in everybody's tradition or habit or what they're accustomed to. So let's try it for the sake of hospitality. This is pretty much what I said to my board. For the sake of hospitality, they have moved out of their home, and we are welcoming them into this space. And how about if we give them a few months of doing it their way, right? Or what they're not their way, but the way that they are accustomed to, and see what that feels like. Nobody says you have to take communion every week if that doesn't feel like what you're led to do. And our boards have been really gracious and really wonderful. They have led a lot of this process and have really been respectful to one another and hospitable, mutually hospitable in the ways that they've dealt with each other. So this is not just about us.
Congregations, they were willing to do it.
Yep.
That's been great. And I think the other thing that we've encouraged is in teaching that you don't have to take communion if you don't want to. And we've already experienced that there are some people who have chosen not to. And so that's just a beautiful thing that if they would like communion, they can, and if not, that's cool too.
So finally, tell me a story, maybe you each get one, or one. Tell me a story of when God has shown up in this process. And it might be when those seeds were planted all the way up to yesterday or today. Just one.
Mine's long.
Yours is long? Okay.
But I can shorten it. I can shorten it.
Well, think about
All
that.
right. Okay, go ahead.
Well, one way that I have seen God show up is that the pieces along the path have all seemed to be synchronous, right? Things have fallen into place in ways that I could not have ever imagined, or in ways that seem disproportionately, probable, right? And that, to me, always is kind of what a call feels like, is that way opening, that to borrow a phrase from our Quaker friends, right? And one of
the huge pieces was that we have access to 2 programs. I'm just going to give a little shout out to the Oikos Accelerator by program that Rooted Good is doing for churches, and the Awaken Dane program. We had access to apply to 2 local programs that will help us shape our ministry in community-oriented directions and in ways that will utilize our building and property more effectively for ministry. And they're both local, right? Both Lilly granted programs. We could not have afforded consulting, and we were accepted into both of those programs, and they will guide our ministry and building committees. So that felt like God really showed up and is giving us support in ways that is absolutely vital and creative and spirit-led. So that's my story.
I think mine, I can tweak it a little bit. Mine has been, and I think this has been the same for you, Stacy, that people have allowed us, have graced us to allow us to be their pastors. So not just that we are pastors of a congregation, but they have actually engaged in a way that historic Lakeview people have allowed me to be pastoral in ways with them, and the same
Yes.
for you. And that doesn't always happen, right? I mean, so, and I had a very special time with one of our 90-year-olds who was cleaning in here, and we just had a very special time being able to learn about each other.
Those relationships, and that's what ministry is about. We love it. Well, thank you. And if people wanted to find out more about you,
Facebook page, Common Grace.
Common Grace on Facebook.
It's the easiest.
Yeah. But we also have tabs on each of our former websites, right?
I got rid of my website. It doesn't exist.
You are okay. So
we are learning about what it means in this moment.
LakeviewMoravianChurch.org is still up. Sorry, but there's a tab, and I think the tab says Common Grace
It does.
now. Right. So it gives us a little bit more of the background and some of the building community partners that we've been working with, and where we hope this ministry will go.